campaign ad accusing Herschel Walker of pulling out a gun and putting it to the head of his wife, well, now ex-wife. According to her, he did this move multiple times, including choking. He had a fascination with knives and guns and was generally abusive. Now, this is not actually contrary to the narrative of Herschel Walker. I will explain, but here's the video.
Do you think you know Herschel Walker? Well, think again. Listen to what his ex-wife had to say about him.
His eyes would become very evil. The guns and knives. I got into a few choking things with him. The first time he held the gun to my head, he held the gun to my temple and said he was gonna blow my brains out.
This was actually created by a Republican political action committee. This Republican PAC is anti-Trump and by extension anti-Herschel Walker. The information contained in the ad is seemingly true, very true. So much so that Herschel Walker basically admitted to this in a previous book he wrote, and he said this was part of his personality disorder. But according to Herschel Walker, he has been healed of this personality disorder by a man named White Jesus. And now he's absolutely 100% okay. That is contrary to what his business associates have recently said about the would-be senator if he wins this election. Let me give you background. A brutal new political ad targeting Georgia Senate candidate Herschel Walker focuses on his alleged abuse of his ex-wife. Her name is Cindy Grossman. The ad, produced by the Republican Accountability Project PAC, shows archival footage of an interview she did after the publication of Walker's book back in 2008. The name of his book is Breaking Free: My Life with Dissociative Identity Disorder. His wife filed the divorce, the ex-wife Grossman filed for divorce in December 2001 and returned to court in 2005 for a protective order after Herschel Walker repeatedly said that he wanted to kill her and he was going to, in fact, murder her boyfriend. Walker stated unequivocally that he was going to shoot my sister Cindy and her boyfriend in the head, her sister said, according to court records that have been made public. Walker currently trails Democratic incumbent Raphael Warnock in polls by roughly 4.4 points. Now that's according to Real Clear Politics. Now let me give you an aggregate count, because some people get excited about that 4.4. Let me be very clear. First of all, polls are not predictions, they're snapshots. So never get so fascinated by polling data that you forget they still have an election to run. Number two, if you take an aggregate of the last 7 polls and combine them, Herschel Walker is only down 2.9 points. 2.9 points, well within the 5-point margin of error. That's an important dynamic to remember. What that means is just as easily as Walker is down 2.9 to 3.3, maybe 4.4, he could be up that amount as well based on the margin of error. So all of this polling data shows him within the margin of error. And in addition to that, there's a third party candidate, a libertarian named Chase Oliver. Chase is running as a pretty strong single digit third party candidate in this election. Republican political action committees are already, many of them are already backing the third party candidate, trying to force a runoff between Warnock and Herschel Walker. Why? Because they believe that Herschel Walker, their candidate, has a better opportunity to win the election in a runoff scenario. So far, none of the men are breaching 50% plus one, which is the prerequisite in Georgia to give you your mandate to govern. Not 51%, but 50% plus one vote. And virtually none of these candidates in survey data, none of them have come close to that. All right, there's more. Walker's scandals, incoherent statements, blatant hypocrisy, allegations of abuse, all seem eerily familiar. Trump's 2016 victory and his long-lasting influence in the GOP is partially due to the fact that voters embraced his style of politics. His status as a reality TV celebrity did not hurt either. Now let's talk about hypocrisy. Obviously, there are loads of hypocrisy with Herschel Walker. He said we need better fathers, especially black fathers, and he was an absentee father himself. He talked about black empowerment and owning black companies, and he employed hundreds, he employed 4. He talked about graduating from college, he never did. He talked about being in the FBI, he never was. He talked about being a sworn deputy, never happened. Lies, lies, and more lies. Well, his mentor or master, Donald Trump, has taught him very well. And this has not harmed his political outlook with Republican voters. He is still very much so their favorite here. Let me go to another hypocritical individual, Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida. Now, this governor says that gun-free zones are dangerous, ladies and gentlemen. We need more guns. He's pro-constitutional carry, guns, guns, guns. However, the insider has discovered that Governor DeSantis has a gun-free zone policy to protect his own safety. So while he's traveling America in Arizona, Ohio, Pennsylvania, firearms will be strictly prohibited at his events. And it isn't liberals who are showing up to greet the Florida guy with an AR-15, conservatives. So literally, you have a governor who supports guns in the classroom, teachers having guns, guns in churches, guns everywhere. But as far as his personal policy, when he travels the country, no guns allowed. Wait a minute, Governor. I thought you said gun-free zones are dangerous. There's more. Another height of hypocrisy, Charlie Kirk, Turning Point USA. Turning Point USA will be hosting Unite and Win. Let's put up a picture of Charlie. They're gonna host this Unite and Win events with candidates, including DeSantis, Carrie Lake, JD Vance, Blake Masters, and others. The event says there is to be no, and they write it CCW. Wait a minute, what is CCW? That means concealed carry weapons, okay? They are not allowed to carry concealed weapons at these various events being sponsored by Turning Point USA. Ironically, TPA, Turning Point USA, has shared memes mocking such zones in the past. Hypocrisy on top of hypocrisy. So while they can understand the logic of having restrictions on guns for their own personal safety, they seem to not understand the logic as it relates to creating policy to make sure individual citizens are safe in public spaces as well. Wow. Adrienne, attorney at law, make it make sense. These individuals are antithetical to the policies they proclaim publicly. How did that happen?
Oh, well, I would just say, arguably, members of the GOP, it's like this, almost you have to be a hypocrite in order to qualify. It seems to be even so more the case. I understand to a certain extent, integrity is an important part of just being a human being. That's a decent one, but it just seems too often that members of the GOP do not hold that quality at all. And we're seeing it in their actions, which seem to definitely be inconsistent with their words. And it really does show you that their goal is largely to push an agenda that they themselves do not necessarily subscribe to. And as a result of that, to shape and to control us, as opposed to walk with us and to enact policies and principles and aspects of legislature that are reflective of our own beliefs as we the people. And it's a very scary thing. And so as people continue to align themselves with this party on the right, what they are aligning themselves with are people who will hold them to standards that those individuals alone will not necessarily live by. And you're going to see considerable hypocrisy in their actions, as well as duplicity that will cause the downfall of our nation.
Very well said.